Welcome back to Be the Good with Kate, the show that inspires each of us to see how we have the power to make a difference all around us. Each episode highlights an individual doing good in the world while following their passions, good for their own souls and for others. I get so excited about sharing each and every episode of Be the Good with you, and I hope you enjoy these people and stories. If you're new here, welcome, and if you are returning, thank you so much for your support. I'm so glad you found Be the Good with Kate and would love to hear from you. If you're finding value in these episodes, I invite you to share with someone who could also use this dose of good news, or tag me on social with your favorite quote from the episode. Every share, subscriber, review, and comment helps me to share these guests' wonderful work to more people. Thank you for your help in this. Now, on to this week's episode. Let's spread a little more goodness in the world.
So today's guest, this popped into my head, and I really have to say, you know how peers joke about they want to be so-and-so when they grow up. And I kind of feel that way about Juliet Hahn, who is our guest today. I'm so fascinated by her. And Juliet is a wife, a mom, a storytelling consultant, keynote speaker, podcaster, content creator, and according to her, a crazy obsessed dog lover. She is the host of Your Next Stop and Your Next Stop Live. Her mission in life is to give women and men a stage to share their stories. She believes deeply that everyone has a story and we can all learn from each other. We just need to listen. Juliet helps her clients be able to articulate their stories. She helps connect the dots so they can share and connect with more people. And I'm so excited to introduce you to Juliet Hahn. Thanks so much for being here, Juliet.
Oh my God, Kate, thank you so much. And what a great introduction. I sound so wonderful.
Well, I was able to pull things from your website, so thank you for that. And Juliet is, one day she's talking to NFL players and their families, and the next day she's sitting here talking to me on a podcast. So I am amazed that schedules worked out, because I know you are go, go, go. So thank you so much.
No, and I'm excited to do this. I mean, I love, Kate was on my podcast, Your Next Stop, and we really connected. I mean, there were so many things that was like, oh, wait, I feel like we're very similar in this way. And it's fun to connect with like-minded people through stories.
Oh, agreed. And I've had so many people write to me about that episode too. So you did such an awesome job with it. So thank you. And please, before I go off on a tangent, tell people a little bit more about who you are and what you do in your own words.
Yes. Well, I know I'll try to keep it short, but we'll say. So I am a mom. I was in advertising before kids, and then I chose to stay home, which was not the easiest decision, but I always wanted to be a mom. So it was a decision that I really, really love that I did. As my kids got older, I started feeling a little like I wanted to kind of contribute more to the family. I wanted to also do something. I didn't want to just play tennis and have wine at lunch, which some of the people in my community were doing. And I said, if I played tennis, I would have to be the best, because I'm an all or nothing person. And I played college sports. So it was like, I couldn't just play tennis as like a fun thing. I would have to take lessons and be really good. And I'm just an all or nothing person. So I knew that was going to happen. So as, my kids, as I said, grew up a little bit more, I started teaching fitness. And I know this is where you and I really connected. I started teaching women that were really the similar age that I was. So now I was in my 40s, never really had to watch my weight. And then one day I was like, where did that butt come from? I don't understand. I'm doing everything the same. My body kind of shifted and changed. And so I became a little bit fascinated. As I said, I'm kind of an all or nothing person, fascinated with what happens with the woman's body as they age. And, especially after kids, what does it look like? So I started helping kind of get into routine a little bit with nutrition, and loved that. I was doing that probably for 5 or 6 years. Some days I was teaching 2 classes back to back, and then, the next day teaching 2 more, and really had a great community of women that were kind of following. And I was doing it local in town. I was doing stuff, when we went away in the summer. We went to the beach in the summer from the community that we were in. I would do free classes, like when the kids were sailing or swimming. I called it Ladies on the Lawn. And we just had like a great kind of community, and just like, let's all move our bodies. Cause I know that always kind of really helped me settle my brain. So from there, though, I started getting a little stuck. We had moved full time to the community that we were just summer residents, and I didn't want to jump in. There was like a small community because it was summer mainly. The summer community was big at the time at summer, but during the year, it was a little bit of a smaller community. And I didn't want to take away from the people that already had established their fitness. It just wasn't, I just didn't want to be that kind of aggressive, or that just wasn't in me at the time. And so I started walking my dogs like I always did, but daydreaming. I call it like my meditation time. Some people sit and meditate. I think of laundry when I do that. So I have to be moving when I create.
Again, relatable.
Right. So I started coming up with I just kept thinking about podcasting and how I loved telling stories and connecting. And really, again, my kids were at an age where they weren't needing me as much. And I was feeling a little lost in that. Okay, what's next for me? What's this next stage? And I started the podcast, Your Next Stop. And originally it was called Next Stop Crazy Town. Because Crazy Town is like a very enduring name. Like for me, it's like love. It's like my family's energy. It's my boxers. I have two, just like that whole thing. And I started telling personal journal stories, really connecting with people that were the same age as me. And because I had that fitness background and did a lot of social media, people will always be like, oh, you seem like you have everything together. And I would laugh and be like, okay, open my front door and you will see very quickly that, or open my car door. I do not have everything together. And it would make me laugh because I always felt like I was really real. Especially on social media, I never hid. Like if I was having a bad day, you knew about it because I wear my emotions on my sleeves. I'm not someone that kind of can go through life being like, oh yes, no, everything's fine. If everything's not fine, people know it's not fine. So I started talking to those kind of people that were thinking that they had to live this perfect life. And, as kids get older, problems get bigger. Teenagers are not easy. Also, your marriage, you're in now a marriage longer, and you have to work at that a little bit more than maybe the beginning. So there's things in our lives that, we're going through that maybe we didn't expect. So I wanted to talk to that audience. And then from there, COVID happened. I started interviewing people. I called it within Your Next Stop. Within Next Stop Crazy Town, I kind of created this Your Next Stop series, which then I rebranded, and that became the episodes. But I just started interviewing people around the world and kind of finding out what their COVID looked like and what quarantine looked like. And then I would run downstairs and tell my family, oh my gosh, I just learned about, this person in England, they can't even leave their garden without the police coming, we have it so good. And really seeing the positive. This is like another thing why we really connected, seeing the positive. I always see the positive in every situation. Sometimes my 3 teenagers might say that's really annoying. But I always live that way. So that's kind of how the podcast grew. Then I rebranded, and the rest is history. As you said, I'm doing NFL stuff. One of my guests, Cynthia Zordich, her husband was in the league for 12 years, and we collaborated afterwards because I became fascinated with the stories of women that have professional athletes as husbands or boyfriends. How you just have to pick up and go, or when they get injured, you have to kind of be the psychiatrist and psychologist. And when you have kids, what does that look like? I really am super curious if you haven't gotten that. But so I started asking her, and then we started doing series. We do live events at the Super Bowl the Thursday before, this beautiful luncheon. I bring the podcast. I interview the women, just a little bit about what they do, what careers they have. And time again, it's like these big careers that people just don't realize because their husbands are bigger than life, but they have this really solid life as well. And so it's really, really fascinating. And so, and then from there, I became a storytelling consultant because of all the people that were on my podcast. They would say, hey, I really love how you asked that question, and I didn't know how to incorporate that. And I am on the podcast circuit, or I'm doing media, especially for small businesses and entrepreneurs. And I was doing it again, just because I loved it. But then I realized, wait, more people are reaching out to me. I can make this a business. And so probably 6 or 7 months ago, that part of my business just really boomed, because it was like one and another person was like, I want to incorporate that part that you brought out of me. And I never really thought about it as it connecting with people. But now people have listened to my episode with you, and that's the thing that they talk about. So clearly it's what's connecting. And I truly believe that that's, stories connect us. You're going to learn about someone's story, and there could be something that you feel very insignificant in your life, but it's actually what's going to make an impact on someone else.
Absolutely. And was that something you had ever thought of doing before you started to get that feedback, being a storytelling consultant, or was that a brand new idea in that time period?
It's really interesting that you asked me that, because I have like workshops and I have done stuff that, with podcasts, you can get sponsors and you can get sponsorships, but you don't make a lot of money. It's not like it's something, there's the 1% that can make a lot of money. And I really love what I do and realized I was really good at it. So I knew that I could help people more. And it's what kind of drives me. Like, I love hearing people's stories. I love uncovering things that they don't think. I love connecting those dots and then having them have that aha moment. One of my clients is a keynote speaker, and she has this amazing story, but she wasn't bringing in the beginning part of her story. And when I helped her do that, she said, people are not on their phones. Like, it is like eyes on me, and it has nothing to do with what her like leadership is or what her job is or what her message is, but it's something, an insight of her that makes her more relatable and then connects with the people, because they want to hear, wait, I want to know more about that part of your story. And then really that's what helps you sell your businesses. I mean, so, and I want to throw it out to your listeners right now. Like, if you ever hear a commercial or something and it has the commercial, you're like, oh my God, I don't even know what product it is, but like, I love this. I love hearing this. I'm going to go buy it. I don't even know what it is. And if the product's good, great. But if the product's not good, you're not going to rebuy, but that story is what made you buy. And on the vice versa, you could have a terrible, like, you don't know how to tell your story, but you have the most incredible service or product, but because you're not connecting with people, no one's buying that. So if you're able to connect deeper, you're going to be able to sell what your product is. And so, a lot of times on my podcast, talking to people that have turned a passion into a business, that's really like my main people that come on the podcast, is when they hear that, they're like, oh my gosh, I did have so many more people reach out because I talked about something that I thought was so, not significant. It was so inconsistent. I can't even speak. Sorry.
I know what you're trying to say. It's
insignificant.
Important. Yes.
Yes. Oh my gosh. As I shared with you, I was on 2 podcasts right before this and recorded one before. So clearly I'm a little tongue tied, but so that's what's important. That's what's really important. And not everyone thinks about it, because it is, it's like a lot of people think their own lives are not that like big and bold, but to someone else, little pieces are, and especially when you have a product or service or a book or something that you're trying to, connect with other people because you're going to be able to help them. That's the way you do it.
Yes. Yes. It just popped into my head when you said that. And I can't remember now if it came up when I was on your podcast, because I know it came up somewhere fairly recently, that relatability aspect of when you think it's something insignificant. I just remember one day while I was teaching a fitness class saying, I'm too tired to do this one today, you guys. So go ahead. I'm going to sit this one out, or something along those lines. And someone came up to me afterwards and they said, oh my gosh, all these years of you teaching all these classes. And that was the first time that it occurred to me that you get tired too. And I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I'm always tired when I walk in here, and it's you guys that pull it out of me, and that energy and that motivation. But it is that one little aspect that feels little, I shouldn't even use that word, but could be exactly what someone needs to hear. So I love that you highlighted that with what you are experiencing with your clients.
But the other thing is that's also important, because this is the other thing I help clients, because also there's podcasts that are an hour, there's some that are 30 minutes. It depends on who the audience is. So what parts of their stories are important to, help or talk about. And sometimes an interviewer might not bring something out that is going to connect. So I also help them be able to weave it in without, making it weird. Like, wait, I didn't ask that. Why is she talking about that? And so one of the things that you just made me think about is, a lot of times, whether you, again, have something that you're selling or, a service, or it's a brand, you're an influencer, like something that you want more recognition for, is sometimes just saying one sentence is a little window into someone. And so I also help clients do that. Like, here's so like networking, like here's your kind of like, and I hate the word elevator pitch because I feel like it's so overused, but here's your like, one sentence. And that's one of the things, like this is when I talk to people, and I didn't even bring it up in the beginning, but I'm dyslexic and I played 2 college sports. So school was really tough for me, obviously being dyslexic, but I played sports and that was what drove me. That's what got me into college. And so when you hear that little part, that's a window into who I am. So someone that knows dyslexia could be like, oh, wow. Okay. So I know that she had some, tough times in her life with school and education, but she played 2 sports. So that means that she's competitive. She's got grit, right? She knows how to work hard. And that's just with one sentence, a little bit about me. So that's why it's also important for people to have that little kind of tidbit about themselves. When you talk about, you have this podcast and you're a fitness instructor and that you've done theater, again, it's going to give you like, sometimes it can be a stereotype, right? It can be a stereotype of like what, but it gives you a little bit of knowledge of like, okay, I understand this person a little bit more. And I think that's what we need to do in the world is understand each other a little bit more. And so knowing how to share your story is going to help that.
Oh, absolutely. Hitting the nail on the head one time after another here. Juliet, there's so many good news moments I know that you witnessed and experienced between your clients and the guests you've had on your show. Are there any you'd like to share?
Yeah, I mean, there was this one, and it's so funny that there's actually 2, but one of the early guests she's an entrepreneur, but she worked in like the Fortune 500s. And I used to tell this story a lot because it really ties what I do. I said to her, okay, it's really interesting because I always love to learn a little bit about the person, like their backgrounds, like what kind of made them tick, like a little bit growing up, like a little insight there. Cause I really feel like sometimes that does connect later in life, whether you had a good or bad experience. So her dad was a professor and her mom, I believe, stayed home. But she's like, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I don't know why. And I said, so you didn't see it anywhere? And it was like the first time I really encountered this. Usually if someone's an entrepreneur, they've had some like, it's either a parent or they like saw a neighbor or an uncle or somewhere in the family, they saw it. And she's like, no, I never have. She goes, and it's interesting that you said that because I haven't really thought about that. But no, I knew I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I said, that's just fascinating to me, especially since you never really saw it anywhere. And then she goes, wait a second. She goes, oh my gosh, I haven't thought about this in forever. She said, my dad owned a store with our neighbor. And I literally just saw this woman like come to life. She said, and oh my gosh, she's like, we used to go to dinners and it was like the most fun celebrating. And it was like, he was working and they would be collaborating on what was going to be in the store. And I said to her, when dad, the professor, walked in the door versus dad, the entrepreneur, was there a different energy? And she went, oh my gosh. I said, you've been chasing that energy. Even though you didn't didn't remember it completely, you've been chasing that energy all of this time. And she said, holy crap. And now she is an entrepreneur, but that's what, she's like, it was really a short time. And I was like young. She's like, I was 5 or 6. So that's something. And I also think one of the things that I connect with my clients and then they really understand, and I want your listeners to kind of think about this, is there's memories that are memories, right? Visual memories, but there's also memories that are feelings. And a lot of times we don't know what to do with those memories that are feelings. But if we can think back in our life, again, it could be negative or positive, but if you're on a journey trying to, again, build a small business, entrepreneur, brand, doing something or changing things in your life, if you can go back and kind of reminisce. I do it, as I said, when I walk the dogs, it's like my time to daydream and like really think of things. But if you can find that spot that you can kind of daydream, think about and really be in tune to your body. Like, oh, wait, that's a good feeling I'm having, or, ooh, I don't like that feeling. And sometimes you might not want to explore that, that's maybe something you do with your therapist. That's not what I'm telling you. But the things that you get that really kind of good feeling, but you don't remember, dive into that because that is something that maybe that's like the direction in your life is supposed to go. Maybe it's a pivot that's supposed to be coming up. Maybe it's, especially if you're feeling stuck like I did, when my kids got a little older and I was like, okay, what's next for me? I'm not going to go back and work in New York City because I want to still be here raising my kids. I still want to be home when they come home from school. I want to have the flexibility. What can I do? So thinking about kind of things like that really kind of can help shape what you're doing and where you're supposed to be. going next.
There's so many times already that I'm like, ooh, I want to hit pause and go back, rewind, and then think that over again and then keep going. So already just so many actionable aspects of talking to you here, Juliet. Just incredible. And you had another one you wanted to share as well.
Yeah, and there's been a couple of times, especially with the NFL segments that I do. As I said, we do live events. So we bring the podcast to these. And one of the times there's this charity event that they do, which no one knows. It's called Off the Field Wives Association. It's actually the NFL Wives. They put on a charity fashion show. It's been going on for 22 years. Okay. No one knows about it because they sell out right away because it's like, they're doing it as volunteers, and they're raising money for a local charity that they pick. They all pick, there's a board, a local charity of that city that the Super Bowl is. And it's been happening for 22 years. Okay. So they raise hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of dollars for a charity that is local. And it's through this wonderful fashion show. So I get to broadcast live on the red carpet. And so time and time again, I've, on the red carpet or behind the scenes when the girls are getting their makeup, and I've come in and talk and I'll say, can you tell me a little bit about yourself? And they always say their name and then who their husband is and where they played or what team they play for and their position. And I would say, oh, that's great. Can you tell me a little bit more about yourself? Like, do you stay home? Do you have a, career? And they would literally go, wait, what? And this happened so many times that I was like, oh my gosh, this is the other reason why Cynthia and I do what we do. I said, I want to know, do you have like your own business? Do you stay home with the kids? Like how old are the kids? And they would say it was easy for them to talk about their kids, but not easy for them to talk about themselves. And it was time and time again, like, oh, wait, I'm sorry. No one's ever asked me that. I'm so thrown off. You want to know about my business? And then they would go on to tell me about their business or what they do. Lawyers, doctors, entrepreneurs, people that have their own makeup lines, brand. I mean, so many things that I was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible to me. But then afterwards they would come up and say, I just want to thank you. I've never had that happen because as a professional athlete's wife, you are really not seen. It doesn't matter. I mean, there were some that had been top models. And they're like, it's not about you. And it's something that I've had to do a lot of work on myself to know I am not the center of attention in the spotlight anymore. I'm here to serve and to serve my husband and his career and be here and raise my kids. But yes, I have dreams and aspirations too. So that was really cool. And then that's really fun to be able to highlight them, whether, there's going to be some of your listeners who are like, I don't like the NFL or I don't like professional sports, but I want them to think about the women behind it. The women that are there supporting and what that looks like as a mother, as a wife, as your, husband gets injured or is out of the league because they're not, signing him back up, or you're choosing him to leave the league, and that finance, where does that look? There's so many different layers that just fascinate me, and to see how time and time again, how there are stories of winning. There are stories of these guys staying together with their wives and supporting their wives in their next journey where the husbands are staying home. And so we just had all of those really great podcast interviews on my podcast. We just put out, I think it was for 6 weeks I've been putting them out, and I've really, and you were right in between. You actually, I think were in between your episode.
I said, oh my gosh, I got to tell my whole family, big sports family, like I'm right in between the NFL players on this website. It felt very honored.
Yeah, no, that was cool. But so those are some of the things that I love. And again, I've had so many aha moments with my clients that they just really are like, I didn't think about that. And this has helped me then move forward and really like kind of dive into my story a little bit and do some work on, why and what I want to do. And maybe is this the direction I want to do, or do I want to do something, towards this direction? So it's very rewarding. And it's for me, it's inspiring. I love stories and why people tick, and, it's just fun.
Oh, that's fantastic. And just for the listeners, can you tell a little bit more about the difference between the main podcast and the fireside and the live chats?
Yes, which I know is very confusing. So your next stop is my main podcast. So that's out on every, podcast player. So you can find that Apple, Spotify. I have a YouTube that's, it's my name that has all of those. And then I have different segments. So I have Your Next Stop Live, which all my live shows are on Fireside. That's Mark Cuban and Fallon Fadimean's app, where it's basically you can stream a podcast live. So you can be remote, but each of you can have your stream going out. So like it is streamed on YouTube, LinkedIn Live, Facebook right now, not so much, but Twitch. There's like places that it can go. So I have Your Next Stop Live. I have YNS, like Your Next Stop Live with NFL Thread, and NFL Thread is like the LinkedIn for women of the NFL. Cynthia Zordich started that. She and I collaborated after she was on my main podcast, Your Next Stop. And then we have Your Next YNS Live with NFL Thread Pivot. And that's really the guys that's pivoting out of the league. What does that look like? We do have the husband and wife usually on, or it's just the guys talking about, what it looked like. And there's a lot of depression talk. There's a lot of, I didn't think I was good at anything else. This is always what I was meant to do. How do you stop it? And it was a journey and it was hard. And then seeing the careers they have gone into is really cool. Or if they're like, no, I stay home with the kids now. My wife is it's really fun. So all of those live segments are on Fireside. They live on Fireside, but then they do go out on my Your Next Stop. So they're like kind of in between Monday and Thursday are when my episodes go out. And it's Monday usually was Your Next Stops, and Thursdays was the live shows. But after the Super Bowl, we just put them all out. That was like kind of my focus, because we're headed to the draft. So we're headed to the draft, doing the same thing in Kansas City at the end of April. And we have opportunities for sponsors and a lot of time, for people to get involved. There's swag that people can get involved and put their products in these bags that are going to the girls. So there's a lot of opportunity. So I wanted to get all of that content out because we got so much good content and really highlight what the event is about.
It's so neat. It just really, it's something that I so love about podcasting. And you kind of mentioned a little bit about it too, of that you learn so much from each person and each person's journey and each person's background. And even just the idea of highlighting NFL players and their families, it made me think like, wow, that is a huge amount of people. Because you think, how many NFL teams are there? Every year there's new people coming and going. And that's just one professional sport. Nevertheless, all the other ones that they can then relate to with these stories. So it really, I love getting that kind of eye-opening moment of this whole other industry and set of stories, which is so fantastic. And I have to ask you, because I can ask you a million questions, but please tell us about your mantras or sayings that get you through, especially when it gets challenging.
Yeah. So I have 3 quotes that are like kind of my to-goes that I read, and I have to pull them up because I can't remember. Remember, I said I was dyslexic. I can remember a lot of stuff, but so this is one of my favorites, and it just reminds me of certain seasons of my life, definitely as my business is growing, and I have 3 teenagers. So juggling all of that and knowing, first and foremost, I want to be a mom, but I also do want to grow this. Where can things give? Where can things not give? Where are my kind of deads, like no, I'm not traveling at this time. I mean, for the draft, thank goodness my son's junior prom, we got the email 2 weeks ago. The draft has been set for, forever. And so, but thank goodness it's Friday, our event's Thursday. So I was like, oh my, thank God, because I wouldn't have missed his, I would have been in for a day and then having to leave, it would have been interesting. That would have been very crazy. People do it. And I'm learning to kind of juggle that stuff. But so brave girl, you were made for far more beautiful things. Chaos is only understood when it is loved by the wild, not the weak.
That's
and
good.
I love that. I love that. I send this to my sisters and my daughter too, because you can look at this as negative or positive. I look at this as so positive because you have to know how to live in chaos. Most of our lives, it's not going to be, just a straight, there's always stuff. So then one of the other ones is I get up every morning determined to both change the world and have one hell of a good time. So sometimes this makes planning my day a little difficult. And then my absolute favorite is life is amazing. And then it's awful. and then it's amazing again. And in between the amazing and the awful, it's ordinary and mundane and routine. Breathe in the amazing, hold on through the awful, and relax and exhale during the ordinary. This is just living a heartbreaking, soul healing, amazing, awful, ordinary life. And it's breathtakingly beautiful. And that's by L.R. Nost. That I like, you could say I get tears in my eyes with that, because it is so good and it's so true. And I am someone that loves chaos. I do really thrive in chaos. And I have to learn to, like, there's times where things are just normal and I'm always like, okay, I'm a little bored, but it's good when, especially when you have 3 teens, 2 dogs, a husband, a life, a job, all these things that I'm building. If you can believe, there are some times where it is mundane, and I have to learn to sit and enjoy that mundane instead of trying to, like, oh, let me think of something else to do. Should I start another podcast show? Should I add something else to my plate? No, I should sit and do. And I've gotten way better at it as I've really grown this. But there's times in life where life is so beautiful, and then you get hit with something so terrible that you don't know that you can wake up and move, or your kids are going through something and you're feeling so much. I am such an empath that I do feel a lot of people's, energy and their emotions and their feelings, that you have to learn to kind of just go with it.
That quote, I'm going to go right after this and write all these down. That's a fantastic. And just every day you can get something out of that one for sure.
And I had it made on a picture of me and my one boxer after the couple summers ago. My one boxer, who was my absolute life, died suddenly right in front of me. And it was like, it was horrific. It was probably one of the most awful things I've ever went through. And if you're an animal lover, you get it. If you're not, you're like, huh, because I've been through a lot of other stuff that's awful, but this was just, it was really bad. And, that quote came to me, and it is really, and it was at a part of my business that was like thriving. And so it was just and everyone was in great spaces, and it came out of nowhere. And it was like, it took me down like for a long time. It was during travel lacrosse season. It was like, for my daughter, it was just really crazy. And it came to me, and I just remember being like, I need to read this and read it again and read it again. So I had it made over. My other boxer and we were at the bay, and it's us walking out, and it's beautiful. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I've had quote books since high school. Like, I've always loved them, but this one I had never heard. So
I'm so happy.
Excited. Yeah. Thank you for introducing me to a really great one. And Juliet, a question I've been asking everyone that I love to hear the answer is to, if someone came to you and they said, I see what you're doing, you're making such a difference, I want to make a difference, but I'm overwhelmed, I don't know where to start. Is there any advice you'd give them?
Yeah. 100%.
Great.
It is, again, and I touched on this earlier, but to find that spot, that time, that place that you can really let your brain go and daydream. There's so many people out there, so many people that I've encountered, people that just, that are clients or whatever, that have been on the podcast, that don't let themselves dream. And either because they're scared that they're never going to happen and they're going to feel like a failure, or they're so stuck in life, or they just don't allow themselves to have that time. And I mean, life is so busy, with, as we all know, with social media, electronics, everything is always coming at us. And to find that spot, and it doesn't have to be quiet. As I said, I can't sit and meditate because then I think about the laundry and all the chores in the house that I haven't done that I need to do. So I cannot just sit and do that. But if that's the place you can do that, it's important. But so I walk the dogs. I don't have to be in silence. I can have music on. I can be listening to a book, a podcast, I can be talking to a friend, but I always leave a little bit of time that I am in the quiet, and that I just let myself just dream of what I see for my life, what I want for my life. And when you do that and you keep doing it, you're going to have like kind of the same things come up, and you should explore those. And don't ever think, wait, why would anyone want to read my book? I have nothing to do. Or why would anyone want to listen to my podcast? I have nothing to say. Or why would, I want to be a talk show host. I don't have any, background in it. Don't let those things come into your mind and then take it. You can let those things come into your mind and you can be like, okay, I hear you and I see you, but I'm going to explore this because now it's come to me 5 or 6 times every time I go out and find my daydreaming spot, and then explore it. Start asking questions, find people. There's so much on the web that you can find. If you're embarrassed to ask your neighbor or someone, like, if you know an author and you've always wanted to write a book and you're like, no, I just feel stupid asking them. Go on, research it, look it up. If you have a product that an invention that you've always comes to you and you're like, how do I do it? I've had so many people, inventors on my podcast, and it's fascinating the way they get there. Everyone has a different path, but we all have one. We just have to really be in tuned into ourselves and really listen to be able to find it.
I so hope that everybody listening does that. That right after you're done with this episode, you go out and just let yourself sit in that or walk in that moment of just letting yourself dream. Such fantastic advice, Juliet. And we talked about where to find your podcast. Where can we find you online?
So I'm everywhere. I am Juliet Hahn. The reason why I am Juliet Hahn is because there is another Juliet Hahn, and she's a professor, I think, at the Citadel. She's older than me, and she got the name spelled exactly how I spell my name, and that is Juliethahn. But LinkedIn, it's my name. Facebook, it's my name. My website is I am Juliet Hahn, and then Instagram, TikTok, and Snapchat, everywhere.
Excellent. Juliet, I have so many more questions, but I have got to let you go and continue on your busy days. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kate, for having me.
In taking classes over the years or observing workout videos, one major piece that is often missing: stressing safety and form. Additionally, group fitness classes are often marketed as being open to all levels, yet how often do instructors not give modifications nor progressions so that each participant truly can get what he or she needs out of the class? So that's why I created the 101 series, which take things back to basics with 3 separate courses: Bar 101, Pilates 101, and HIIT 101, focusing on safety and efficiency so you can maximize your workouts. Be confident when you step into a group fitness class or workout on your own. Be strong in your execution of the most common exercises, and be proud of yourself for taking these huge steps forward on your health journey. Check it out at bebykate.com. The link is in the show notes. Thanks so much for listening to Be the Good with Kate Chericello. Whether you're listening on YouTube or via podcast, it would mean the world if you liked, subscribed, and or left a review. You heard about the good? Now go out and be the good in your life this week. If you have stories of good news that need to be shared, please send me a message. Thanks again, and have a great week.